My dad had gotten it from a friend of his a long time ago, so he stuck it like under the carport with like a ping pong table and the jukebox, and that was kind of like the hangout and stuff for sure. Like playing old records on the jukebox. Come from like a pretty, conservative background in New Orleans. It's a very religious city.
What does love mean to you? Oh, I love that. Hi, this is Lauren Engel. Today I'm with Josh of the Glitch Mob. So you were born in New Orleans?
Born in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Yeah, born and raised there. My family's all from there. Many a generation from there. Grew up in kind of like fishing, crabbing, shrimping, crawfish area of New Orleans. My great-grandmother had one of the first seafood restaurants on the lake there, Lake Pontchartrain.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's been kind of like part of my family heritage of New Orleans. So yeah.
And what did you say your parents do?
My mom is a special ed teacher. She teaches deaf children and also some autistic children. And then my dad is, I forget his position, but I think he's like pretty up there in this construction company that uses recycled concrete to pave roads and foundations for new infrastructure and stuff like that.
Where do you get your creative side from?
That's a good question. My creative side comes from, maybe a little bit of both. My dad was a little bit of an artist. He would kind of like draw like funny sketches and things like that as a kid. When I was a kid, but no one in my family plays music other than myself. My little brother plays guitar a little bit, but he's not like a full-on musician or anything like that. But
what kind of music did your parents play in the house when you were growing up?
My mom would have like the oldies station on, playing like 50s and 60s oldies, stuff like that. They weren't like huge music people in the sense of like, oh, this was their favorite record, they would play it. But they would kind of have it on in the background, like I said, like just like throw the radio on the oldie station. Although I did grow up with like an old jukebox that would play 45-inch records. And my dad had gotten it from a friend of his a long time ago, so he stuck it like under the carport with like a ping pong table and the jukebox, and that was kind of like the hangout and stuff for sure, like playing old records on the jukebox. And it's cool, it's still around. I was just there a few months back, and the jukebox is still there, still plays all the same songs.
Nostalgic.
Yeah, so yeah, that was a big part of growing up, and kind of like the musical background was just being around music, just enough to kind of like soak it all in and everything like that.
Do you remember the first CD you bought?
The first CD I bought was what was the first CD I bought? I'm pretty sure it was Stone Temple Pilots, and that what was that first record they put out? I can't remember the name of the album. Bought that, and I had gotten Soundgarden and Metallica Black Album. Those were the first three CDs that I had bought. Yeah.
How do you describe yourself back then, growing up?
I would say a bit of a black sheep in a large family. Come from like a pretty, conservative background in New Orleans. It's a very religious city. Not that my family was super religious, but it was, it was definitely like it was in there. Um, yeah, I was definitely like the kid in my room, like writing lyrics to Nine Inch Nails songs on the wall with a Sharpie and learning how to like draw band logos and things like that.
Yeah.
A lot of like industrial music, a lot of metal and punk and hardcore music. A bit of like that young angsty kid.
Yeah.
And that transitioned into basically a lot of like trip hop, like Portishead and Massive Attack and Tricky, and so I think that's kind of where my love of electronic music comes from. I still would do the same thing. I would just kind of like be in my room, listen to music really loud, and kind of like I don't know, like still like writing a lot of things and like drawing and stuff like that to Portishead and those kind of like cool trip hop albums.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was definitely like a lot of, I guess that's a good way to describe myself. Just like constantly soaking in music as a kid, trying to figure out how things were made and studying the sounds of them and things like that. I was like into the lyrics of a lot of music, but really for me it was all the sounds and the detail in the percussion and all the different things like that really tickled my ear and gave me the focus on music and like why I wanted to make music and why I wanted to be a part of it.
Did you like school growing up?
I hated school growing up. Yeah, it was the worst for me. It was hard for me to focus. I didn't do super well in school. I enjoyed being around all the different types of people. I feel like I was kind of friends with a lot of little subgroups in school. I didn't have like my one little group of friends, like skateboarder friends that I only hung out with. Like I somehow ended up hanging out with like tons of different types of people in school, which is always kind of fascinating to me. But as far as like the actual academic side of school, man, I just did not enjoy it. It was really hard for me. I constantly was thinking about other stuff, music, or I was really big into skateboarding for a few years, and so just like anything but school, I would basically, that's what got me excited.
So you kind of always knew that you would be in the creative career.
I don't know if I always knew that I was going to be, but I always wanted to be. I definitely always wanted to be a part of music. From the very beginning, I can remember hearing songs. Some of the first songs, like R.E.M's "Losing My Religion" was one of the first songs I remember hearing in this whole new way, where it wasn't like just hearing a song on the radio. I heard it and analyzed it and really thought about each part of the song and what was going on, and I knew that I wanted to somehow be a part of music in whatever way I could. I was just like, I wanted it so badly.
Yeah.
My whole childhood. Luckily my folks had bought me a drum set as like a 12-year-old boy, which I don't know what helped them do that. Thank you, Mom and Dad. But so they definitely supported my love of music and everything from the beginning. And
What happened after high school?
After high school, what did I do? So right after high school, I tried to go to college for my parents' sake, just to throw them a bone. And that didn't last very long, maybe a couple months.
You were going to study music?
No, I don't even know what I was going to do. I was just going just because they were like, you got to go to college. That's just like what you have to do. So I was like, all right, it'll get me out of the house. I could go, I don't know, figure something out. But did not work out for me. It was not what I wanted to do. So I moved back to New Orleans, maybe just a few months in, and then shortly after that I decided to go to Austin, Texas, because I had met a couple of guys in those couple of months of college. So I went there and fell in love with Austin and decided to stay and lived there for a few years. Met some amazing, wonderful people there, and just kind of blossomed into, like my own life and what I was going to become, and lived out in the woods for a few years with this like really cool hippie family in like a trailer, kind of like way outside the city, and we would just play music and sing and have bonfires and take psychedelics and just really like dive into just kind of weird, cool stuff that I had no idea existed out of like right out of like New Orleans and high school and everything, and lived with them for a few years and got the nickname Ooah, which later became my DJ / producer artist name. And a few years later, I went out to Burning Man and met a bunch of amazing, beautiful, artistic people and became friends with them. And they were from Southern Oregon and California and a few people from LA. And so I decided to hang out on the West Coast and just traveled around in a van for a while with a buddy, and tried out all the places, and I finally came down to LA, and I just loved it. I was like, oh yeah, this is it. This is like the style of place I wanted to be in. It felt so full on, and there was so much here. It just felt so powerful here, and I felt like music could go really far here without even knowing that music was a huge industry here. When I got here, I was like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to be here.
Yeah.
So I just stayed, and it's been about 16 years or so now.
What did your parents think of the whole thing? Were they supportive?
Yeah, for the most part they were supportive. It took them a while to kind of come around to the fact that I was going after this very kind of niche electronic music world that at the time was merely just a passion project thing. We had no idea that you could actually, make money or have a successful career writing weird left field bass music and just experimental sounds and things like that. So it was a bit confusing, I think, for people at the time, like my parents and stuff, because it wasn't a thing. It wasn't like EDM or whatever it is now. It's it's a whole thing. You can see it everywhere. You could be like, oh, I want to have a career in dance music or be a DJ and this and that, and you could look at it and be like, oh, that's very possible because that's what people do. It was not that at the time.
Yeah.
So for us, for myself, it was we just really wanted to do it, and we really loved doing it. Had a passion for making avant-garde music, and it's just now it is what it is.
How did Of Porcelain come about?
Of Porcelain came about. How did that come about? Of Porcelain came about. I just wrote a bunch of song ideas at a point in life where I was just not feeling like making dance music or anything, heavy or anything like that. That plus just a change in lifestyle and heart-related relationship times was evolving, and so I was just kind of writing music as an experiment, because I had not really made anything like that before, and And I don't know, like a year later, I had all these sketches that I never finished. I mean, none of those songs were ever finished. They were just, like, I don't know, however many hours put into them. And I was like, all right, cool. And I don't know, a year later, I was kind of looking at all these files and these songs that I had. I was like, oh, I should do something with that. And just came up with the name. And just stuck it on Bandcamp, and that was it. That's all I ever did with it. And it spread around, and people got really into it. And that's pretty much the whole thing. It really, since then, I haven't done too much. I've done a couple of songs here and there over the years, but it was just kind of like a moment in time. It was just like a little like, just blip into history of me. Just like, that's just what I did at that time, and that's just it.
How do you say your music has changed since the first songs you made?
Well, I would say that, technically wise, I've grown as a producer and engineer and musician, and taste-wise, the same. My music catalog in my brain is just constantly evolving and changing. I'm inspired by so much music, and I hear so many different styles and genres and tastes of music that it's just constantly like adding up, and there's just more and more and more and more inspiration. But yeah, I don't know. I just kind of like let the music come out in whichever way it does. I never really sit down to be like, I'm gonna make this type of song or that type of song, or no, just kind of whatever the mood is. I just kind of roll with that. To me, writing music is like it's like a wave. Like, I have to just catch it at the right time and ride it, and when the creative juices and the genius is there, just jump on the board and like start cruising. And sometimes it comes out like soft and beautiful, sometimes it comes out sounding glitch mob, or like some banger, or just, I don't know, just like some house music, or just experimental, or sometimes I'll just like grab a microphone and sing random stuff into the mic and sample that, and just, I don't know, just kind of like whatever's like coming out, I just roll with that.
How do you say you've grown as a person since when you started?
I would say I have grown as a person in so many ways. I mean, I have a lot of like love and respect for the creative process and how delicate and beautiful it is, and the ways in which I have been humbled by music experiences and by, songs performing in different ways, and learning what excites fans and what people connect to and things like that has changed me a lot, because that's really what much of it's about. It's like, if someone has, an emotional connection to something that I've made, then that's really important, and that's going to change me. That's going to, I don't know, it's going to affect my heart. It's going to affect my emotions. It's going to inspire me, or maybe it'll bring me down if they're, super negative towards me about something that I'm a part of. Like, so all those different ways. It gives you a thick skin, but it also helps you open your heart and your soul, and to be vulnerable and creative. It's a constant evolution.
What would you say have been your biggest challenges so far?
My biggest challenges, I would say, are being confident in the creative process, and writing music like on my own a lot of times is really difficult, because when you write music with other people, their creative juices are in there, and you have the seal of approval from a couple other people, and that's been super amazing. So I would say it definitely like takes a little bit more for me, like a bit more of like a letting go and a confidence in just kind of like making whatever I'm feeling at that time, and if it goes out in the world, just be like, all right, that's just you know, it's just it is what it is, and you just gotta like take it or leave it.
What does love mean to you? Oh, I love that.
Love to me is accepting and having respect for everyone and everything around. Being able to be vulnerable, being able to be honest and open. Being able to accept change. To be able to, I don't know, just grow yourself, grow your heart and your mind and your soul, and be constantly learning, and just having just compassion in your heart for all beings, all things, and you know, I try to share that as much as I can and try to influence as many people to love and be positive as much as possible, and myself. It's hard to do, you know. It's hard to this day and age. It's a really interesting time. It's a wild world. I think we're all trying to just slowly figure it all out one day at a time. What any of this really means. You know. Yeah, I don't know. I guess love is just like it's an interesting word. I've been thinking a lot about it lately. It's a very vulnerable place, that's for sure, and but sometimes you just gotta dive in and say fuck it and see what comes of it. You
I
know?
love that.
I'm really good at that part.
Last question. What do you want to be remembered for?
I would like to be remembered for just being a genuine human, being kind. I'd love for people to look back and, if they've had a personal experience with me, you know, be able to say that it was a very positive one, and that they took something from that experience and applied it to their life, and it made their life better.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.